Hi, I'm Savannah, and welcome to the SSSS, Super Smart Savannah Show. Today we will be traveling back in time to the period during the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln's presidency, which began November 6, 1860. I will be using this unique time machine for my trip, and I will also be bringing along 2 cell phones, one for myself and one that I'll be sending to good old Abe, since they weren't invented at this time. I don't understand how they functioned. Well, never mind. I need to figure out how to use this. What's going on? Oh my god! Wow, that was fast. I'm now here in the South during the mid-17th century. Most people in this area depend on farming and use slavery to handle the intense task of labor. Gosh, I couldn't imagine being out here in this heat working all day long. Whoa! Gosh, what was that? Did you hear that? I'm sure it's one of those outbreaks again concerning slavery. Many Southerners are very upset with Abraham Lincoln. They feel as if the peculiar institution of slavery is their right, and it would be very disrespectful if it were taken away for good. Oh my gosh. Jeez, I better go take cover. I guess due to these feisty rebels, Abraham Lincoln won't be able to make a trip down to the South. So I guess I'll just have to ignore him. What's up, Honest Abe? So can you tell me what you've done lately about all of this turmoil about pro-slavery and anti-slavery?
Well, I made the decision to free slaves and bring the black population into the war on the Union side. Then the tide of battle turned in 1863, but the South continued to resist 2 more years, until it was overcome by the advantages in manpower and resources of North.
Interesting. In the summer of 1861, what resolution did Congress pass almost unanimously?
Well, Congress voted to affirm that war was only being fought to preserve the Union and not to change domestic institutions of any state.
Gotcha. So how did you plan to control the rebels?
Well, it became clear how hard it would be, so we had to strike a blow at the South's economic and social system by freeing the slaves. So in 1862, Congress authorized the government to confiscate the slaves of masters who supported the Confederacy.
Wow, I bet they were really angry. How did the slaves react?
They began deserting their plantations in areas where the Union forces were close enough to offer a haven. Then they began to put pressure on the government to determine their status, and they offered themselves a source of manpower to the Union if they were made free.
They were so determined. So why were you reluctant to commit to immediate emancipation?
Well, I didn't want to alienate Unionist elements in the border slave states. I also preferred gradual emancipation, and I knew that the strong racial prejudice of Northern and Southern whites would be a huge obstacle. I then tried to find places that would accept a colonization of freed blacks outside of the United States, but I couldn't find any.
Interesting. Did you have any fear of foreign involvement?
Well, yes. We realized that emancipation would win sympathy for the Union cause in England and France, and thus might consider the growing threat that these nations would aid the Confederacy.
And so what happened next?
Well, I drafted an Emancipation Proclamation, but Secretary of State Seward convinced me to wait to issue it until the North had won a victory. Later, I responded to critics and made it clear I would take any action in regard to slavery that would further the Union cause. And finally, on September 22nd, 1862, I issued the Emancipation Proclamation. I now had most Republican politicians on my side. The Confederate States now had 100 days to give up without losing slaves. I wanted a peaceful end. I proposed to Congress that it approve a series of amendments for gradual emancipation, and then on January 1st, 1863, I went ahead and declared that all slaves in areas under Confederate control shall be forever free. It was a military necessity. We needed slaves in the Union Army.
Wow, so what limitations did the proclamation have?
Well, it did not extend to slave states loyal to the Union or occupied areas, and it did not immediately free a single slave. But it did commit the Union to the abolition of slavery as a war aim. It accelerated the breakdown of slavery as a labor system. Large amounts of slaves ran to get protection from northern armies. They didn't want to go back to slavery. Approximately 1/4 of the slave population gained freedom during war under the Emancipation Proclamation, leaving the South with struggles in the agricultural workforce.
Thank you so much for your time, Abe, and informing us about all of the important details to your fight to the finish. Well, now I have a little rap that I've made just to recap all of the important information that we went over. Thank you again, Abe. Bye. Abe Lincoln, President of the USA. Better listen up, got something to say. Yeah, at the beginning of the war, the North thought that they would score. The South was scared, they didn't want to be poor. The North hoped for a quick and easy victory. Abolitionists crusading against slavery. 1861, Congress voted almost unanimously. The war was being fought to preserve the Union, not to change domestic institution. In the South, cotton was a boom. Then they realized it would be ending soon. In 1862, confiscation of the slaves put the South's economy down into the grave. Yeah, the slaves said, "I'll fight if you let me be free. If you say no, this will be never ending." Freedom for blacks was Lincoln's ultimate goal, but he felt reluctant way down in his soul. Abolitionists and radicals were very angry, but Abe preferred a gradual end to slavery. He also had to deal with prejudiced whites. They would be trouble if they had equal rights. Lincoln drafted the Emancipation Proclamation. Sir said, "Wait, don't act out of desperation." 1862 issued to unite the nation. Abe gave the South a chance to end it peacefully. January 1st, 1863, he said all slaves shall be forever free. He justified it as military necessity. This rapid cause